Can we focus the attention again, please? As you can see, the change from one caretaker to the next has always some interesting aspects. So, what we are seeing here is the mystery skull from the last year. It was, and you will hear the story, that was when Carolyn and Einstein came out for the first time. And since that time, Einstein has become a very, very important part of the crystal skull world. Has been traveling around considerably already, and many people have been very excited about it. You heard Stephen Mailer this morning, where he was expressing his excitement about it, and I'm pretty sure that when you listen to Carolyn, your excitement will only increase. So therefore, ladies and gentlemen, Carolyn Ford from Einstein.
They're already down. These are? Thank you.
Okay, can you hear me okay? I'm mic'd this way.
Louder, please.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
We're just getting toward this mic. All right, I'm sorry, we're just getting organized here. Thank you so much for coming, everybody. This is my anniversary almost, coming out a year ago, where I was so scared to step on stage. I thought, oh my God, my biggest fear is realized, public speaking. I really thought this was the worst thing I could ever have to do with public speaking, but I want to confess that after last year, I just took a deep breath and just surrendered everything and just stood up here and did the best I could of being myself, and it was actually one of the easiest things that have ever come out of me. And it was the most beautiful lesson of my life, and I'm hoping to achieve that again today. Still, you can't help but start to think about this now.
Flip it to the PowerPoint.
Okay, I have something to advance with. Meet Einstein again. Since we've just been out in the world a year, this may be the first time a lot of you get to experience Einstein. As you've been walking around, he's been sitting in the corner over there. He's got two little guardians here. In the last year, the energy has risen so much with the skull amped up since I've been bringing him out and sharing him, that he attracted these two little guys, two optical quartz skulls, to just help filter the energy for me. He used to just speak directly, and it was very clear to get the messages. Now it still happens, but sometimes it takes a day or two for it to filter through and really become clear because the frequency is so high. So this is our helpers. Yeah, would you call them speakers? Yeah, I like that. Okay, so now I'm going to try to advance here. Where are we? Please. Okay, let's see.
You get a point to it.
All right, there we go. I like to start with this image of the healing hands. It just sets a tempo and energy. It's a piece of art that I created from someone's hands that had been having miracles. And I was invited to use this image. So I have big pictures of it in my living room and all over. I give them to people in hospitals. It's a very beautiful energy, and I thought it would be really nice to start. So if you would all just to support me in aligning with you, and you in aligning with me, I'm trying to take a deep breath and leave you in the healing hands. Okay, we're going back. I can see it here. Put your hand on your lower belly and take one more breath. Let's bring the energy even deeper as we can. Thank you. If you want to let out a Thank you. That makes me happy. Here's a bigger image of Einstein. It was really fun last year. We were at FIT and the back windows were all mirrored. The building across the street were mirrored and it was all open windows. And when Einstein came up like that, the building behind us had the image of Einstein about 100 feet high on it. It was really quite exciting. The first thing that people always want to know, and I'm going to give you a not be me. People always want to know how Einstein came to me. Since we're new, we're going to give you just, not as much as I did in New York, but I'm just going to give you a little overview so some of you can get on the page and hear my story. As I've been in the corner here today with our booth, that's the first question most everybody asks me is, well, where did he come from? How did you get him? So I thought that I would start with that answer. And it begins in Machu Picchu. Years ago, back around harmonic convergence time, some of you probably weren't even around then, but a lot of you remember, or it's legend at this point for some. I was in Machu Picchu around harmonic convergence, and I went with a few people, and this voice kept telling me I was going to be initiated. And I went, oh, that's interesting. I've always had a mystical and metaphysical background, even since I'm a child. So this type of message didn't surprise me. It didn't really mean much to me. When am I going to be initiated? You know, it was just sort of an amorphous sort of statement out there. But I kept it in the back of my mind. So while I'm in Machu Picchu, I have a number of auspicious meetings. One is in Cusco, where you usually have to spend the night before you get to the ruins the next day. I wanted to meet with a shaman, and it wasn't going to be arranged to have personal meetings. So I was a little disturbed by this because I was kind of counting on it. So, you know, I let it go. I just took up walking in Cusco late at night by myself, which the young woman wasn't really the wisest thing to do, but I didn't really care. I was just guided to walk. I went to a restaurant, went down these steps into a little restaurant, had some tea, and just sat there, and I didn't even know why I was there. And within about a minute, this man came in, the shaman that I wanted to meet, and he said, "You called me." I did. So we started to have a bit of a conversation, but neither one of us spoke each other's language. And within 5 minutes, one of my friends I was traveling with, she's from Cuba, bilingual, she came in and translated. So we had this incredible meeting. It was very powerful, and I'm not going to try to tell the whole story here because it's, you know, I would go over limit and I'd have to set my own alarm here. But it was a very powerful meeting and meant a lot to me. He told me a few things that were key, that I only have come to understand in the last few years. Can you believe that, like 20 years later, something makes sense? Yeah. Does that happen to you? I'm not the only one. I must be a really slow study here. But it all makes sense now that I'm out and I'm doing this work. So then the next day, we're in Machu Picchu. And we were given special permission to go in and do some meditations after they close it for the tourists. And the tourists, I think they have to leave around 3:45, or, you know, it's not, they don't get to stay there too late. So they opened it up and there was permission for us to go in. Meditated with my group, and when it was time to come out, we had someone beating the drum. We all heard the drum. I heard the drum. We're all walking out towards the 18-foot gates, if you've been there. 18-foot gates, they don't want anyone climbing in that doesn't belong there. So we're all walking out, I hear the drum, and I get to the gate, nobody's there, they're locked, and I'm alone. I'm going, what happened here? So it didn't take me long to realize what a great opportunity this was. I went, oh my God, let's see. Nobody's here, I'm locked in, I'm liking this very much. I take inventory, I have a backpack with water and some nuts and a poncho and a nice camera to take some pictures. So I immediately went up to the Inca Trail, came back in, asked permission of the forces from the correct entrance, not the tourist entrance, and proceeded to have an evening that I will never forget, in some parts I don't remember. Writing about it in the book, it's again, it was so profound. Now, this meant nothing about crystal skulls or anything to me, but it's only years later that I realized what happened there. You know, I was initiated, I was checked out. They were checking me out to see if I measured up. That's my perception of the experience. Come back into Washington State. I lived in Seattle at the time. I go to a workshop, a dream workshop, and we'll just advance to the next. I go to a dream workshop, and I still don't know anything about crystal skulls. This is now about 1988 or so. And in the dream workshop, at the end of the workshop, they bring out a few crystal skulls and we all meditate with them. And I'd never seen a crystal skull before. So I thought this was really cool. So I meditated with the crystal skull. And they said, well, see, that has a message for you. And of course, you can see up here, the message was, you're the guardian. Now, again, I don't know about crystal skulls. I know nothing. So I'm thinking, you're the guardian. Oh, isn't that cute? You know, that's cute. What am I going to do with that? Like, so I'm the guardian of what? You know, it doesn't mean anything to me at all. But I remembered these things along the way. And I don't know, again, I'm thinking, am I slow steady? 20 years later, I'm starting to figure it all out. So I was told I was the guardian. Okay. I called a friend of mine and I said, you know, I meditated with this little crystal skull. It was really cute. And can you find me one? Because, you know, I'm going to put it on my collection. I've got a little lapis I play with. And, you know, this was years ago. You know, playing with different stones and making formulas with them and meditating and doing all things with them. So he said, sure, Carolyn, I'll find you one. He has a German mineral shop. Really dear friend of mine, him and his wife. And 24 hours, within 24 hours, he calls me and says, Carolyn, I found your skull. And I said, oh, fantastic, you know. And he goes, well, there's a problem. And I'm going, what a problem? You know, I'm thinking, what could be the problem? I just asked for a small skull. Why is it a problem? Like, if there's a problem, will you just go on to the next skull, or, you know. He goes, well, it's a little bigger than you requested. So my friend's name is Jack, and I go, well, Jack, yeah, I'm just thinking I want to budget, you know, $200-300 for, you know, I don't know how much, you know, that's 20 years ago. They were still, and he goes, well, I think you better come see it. By this time, I had moved to Southern California. So he said, you just need to come back now to Seattle. And I said, I knew him really well, and I said, he goes, it's bigger, and, well, you just have to come here. So I knew something was up. So I dropped everything, got on the plane, and went to Seattle. I was told on the way to get rose water for meeting the skull. I said, oh, that's interesting. So I get to Seattle, go to his home, walk in, I meet Einstein, and you know, my heart about explodes. I start crying, and I immediately remember. And the first words were, this is my baby. I just felt, you know, that of course we had spent time before. So I took the rose water out, gave a great bath, and, you know, brought Einstein home with me. At the time, Einstein wasn't the name. And I'm sure in the past, Einstein has never been the name. But at this particular phase and walk with me, Einstein gave me, within 24 hours of getting Einstein, that name came. But I do want to say, for my friend Thea here, sitting in the front row, Einstein's first words were, if I pronounce it right, Quetzalcoatl. First words. I went, what's that? I mean, I had heard of it. And then I actually even made formulas related to it. But that doesn't mean that it's memory, it's information, it's a connection. There's so many things still to be discovered. But the name was given through a family member to me of Einstein. And it was just so profound. We were just like, boom, boom, you know, we were just knocked over with the name. Years later, I discovered, it was revealed to me actually by a friend of mine who speaks very fluent German. He says, Carolyn, do you understand what Einstein means in German? I said, of course not. He said, Ein, one, Stein, stone. And if it's your original language, there are variances of that, but that's the gringa translation. It's a simple translation. One stone, so it is the walk of this time with Einstein. I've had many people come over the years, and especially in the last year, and say, well, I've been given another name for your skull. And there's a lot of names I've been given, but this is the one we seem to be working with until the skull informs me differently. So Einstein came into my life, and I just went, oh my God, what does this mean? I had no idea. I was clueless. Some people think they'd love to be a guardian. I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know that what that skull told me before it meant guardian related to this. I knew none of it. I had to learn just from the ground up on my own. I did have a little help at one point. As you see here, the images of Fr. Nick Sereno. My infinite wisdom got me to Nick Sereno in the first 6 months of getting this skull. He had written the book, Mysteries of the Crystal Skulls Revealed. So I called Nick. This is a cute story, I just have to repeat it. Because I'm thinking, well, I better talk to somebody to find out what this is and what it's about. So I called Nick. And this is him, by the way, we did meet. He's sitting with Einstein about 20 years ago in my Hollywood Hills home. Back in LA, here we are. So I called, and Nick answered the phone. And I said, is Nick there? And he said, no. And I said, well, can I leave him a message? Well, yeah, what do you call him? Something like that, very. I said, well, and I'm like, I'm younger, I'm kind of insecure. I don't really, it's kind of awkward to say, well, I have an ancient crystal skull, So I did say that. He went, how do you know? I'm like, are you Nick? No, how do you know? I'll give him the message, It's like, so we kind of went back and forth. It was a really cute conversation. And he said, well, he got really excited and asked a few questions. And he said, well, I'll have Nick call you. I said, okay, great. In 30 seconds or a minute or maybe 2 minutes, the phone rings. I looked it up and it's like, hi, this is Nick. And it was just so sweet. So he just was so excited. I mean, as you know, you've been hearing, and most of you know about Nick Sereno, this Fr. Nick Sereno at this time. He was the guy, and he had a passion like no one else for learning and discovering that there was a new skull out there. He was to my home in Southern California. He lived in Northern California. He was there, I think, the next morning. And we spent a whole day. We recorded it. We ordered pizza. We had an incredible time just hanging out. And he walked in the house and he brought measuring devices and cameras and recorders and magnifying tools. It was really quite an experience. And I'm just kind of like, oh my God, And he's measuring, like he said, it's the most anatomically correct skull he'd ever met. He measured everything, and he even talked. This was really interesting for those who are into crystal skulls. I really loved what he said, and I always reflect on it. He said you can tell if your skull is male or female, depending on which eye is larger, as long as you have a skull that wasn't, let's say, machined or something. There's usually one eye larger, just like in a human being. So if the left eye is larger, you've got a a more feminine-based skull. And if the right eye is larger, you have a more masculine base. This may just be theory, but it's just something to play with. I invite you to play with. Another thing I noticed too is, I wanted to say Einstein isn't necessarily male. With a name like Einstein, you've got to call it he, but I just have to tell you that I'm not really attached to the, in our English, it's hard to refer to non-gender. I mean, you have to kind of struggle to find the language, so you say he or she, but I'm not attached to he here. Einstein can be very, very direct skull. When people have private sessions, there's no mincing of the words. Einstein has an incredible sense of humor. There is no mincing of the words, but also can be the most feminine-based energy you've ever experienced. So I don't want you to think of just male and gender and have that be any form of limitation, because the energy is quite unlimited. I'd like to share with you when I first got the skull and I knew nothing. Einstein, because I think these messages are the purest, because I had no ideas or expectations of my own. I really was just completely innocent. He said, I am a master computer. I record your people as you receive messages or recording for, he didn't say messages, that's my new language, but he's like, we're watching you, you watch it, we're watching you, is kind of what I got from that. That he's been here recording for a long time. Then shortly after that message, I have a dream, and the blue whale comes in and says, yes, I'm working with both of you. Or, working may not be the best word, I'm, in resonance and harmony with your path. So then immediately I started getting a lot of information in the dream time of vibrational formulas sent from the blue whale and Einstein. And there were these amazing formulas. They started back in the early 90s, and they were all my path to healing. I made them public, I have a line called Fire Dancer Essences. It's not, really getting out there too big right now because I've been a little distracted, but the reason I've been silent in Sedona for all of those years is that I was being trained. So I got formulas in my dream times that brought me forward and prepared me for this stage right now in my life. And I was always told that I would be standing on the stage one day. And I used to design clothes for important people, and I figured I'd be a successful clothing designer or something, that would happen one day. And of course, in my wildest dreams, I couldn't imagine I'm going to stand on a stage with a crystal skull, from the Hollywood Hills where I am. Like I said, I always had a mystical life, so it doesn't surprise me, but many people come for private sessions and they want to figure out their future now. They want to figure out their path now. And well, they think about these options, and often what Einstein tells people or comes out of the session is, where you are going hasn't really been written today. Be open. And this is a message for all of us. We can't imagine, some of us, how the next day and the next day is necessarily going to unfold. But being open and receptive to your destiny is a beautiful thing. I could just tell you, I have a limit with time today, so I can't tell all my stories. I'm going to write about them. I don't want to get them out. But there's just so many things I could have never imagined I'd be doing, and then one day somebody just walks through your backyard and your life changes. So I think we can all be open to that, because we're walking in times that are changing. We don't have a script for what's coming. And that's kind of the good news, because we have to rely on something deeper within us. and our connection to what is true. And that's going to help gracefully move us into the future. So last year at the 1010, my friend Michelle Nocerino and Stephen Mailer, and Stephen, he's so fun. This guy, you guys love Stephen. I mean, the energy, the passion that he shares is amazing. He came to our home in the spring, and he walked in much like Nick Nocerino, who of course was one of his teachers, with all these measuring devices and everything. It was so fun. It was really quite the experience. And we had a great sharing in there. But this is just from last year, and I had to get Michelle's smiling face up there too. I'll probably get in trouble for that. This is our master of ceremonies here, yeah, and then this is at another, we seem to have these crystal skull dinners here, and there's Yap sitting at the dining table with his skull Sam. The picture was just so beautiful, I had to include it, because the energy, and you get to see Yap there. He is a very powerful, deeply focused man, and what he's done with his skull Sam is profound, the activation that you can bring to a skull that, of course, I'm a little biased. I love ancient skulls because I only have one, and that's all I know. But he has brought so much energy to his skull, which is a great lesson to everybody, that you can really raise the frequency of anything with your focus and intent. So, back to when Stephen was there, he came in saying, I've been thinking about this, and I think there's, instead of just the 13 crystal skulls, and when they get together, and there's this prophecy, and it gets repeated in every book, and it gets recycled a lot. And it's always kind of never 100% resonated with me. There's always pieces to the truth we get, and I don't know how long it takes for everything to really evolve and what it will look like. And I'm still, like I say, I'm a student, so I'm not up here trying to tell you anything absolute. I'm just giving you my, as I experience it, this is how I'm feeling. And when he came in and said that, I said, I've just been getting that myself, that there's 13 groups of 13. And and this is what Einstein was telling me, 13 groups of 13 skulls. And so what I have up here now is the Mayan crystal skull. Stephen showed you the same image. And Einstein has clearly stated these were carved in his image. His or hers, but his image. It's a smaller skull. I have never seen it physically. I've heard about it for a long time. If we were able to compare them and turn them around, they're very similar. They've got, I always like to call these little satellite dishes on the side, the little indentation. Well, they feel like they operate like satellite, they're receivers, And then in Einstein, there's holes here. Stephen mentioned it. There's a hole here, go right in here, and it comes out back. And one of the first things that Einstein also told me was that they made something like a macrame, like a little hammock for his head, And he was suspended in a center. And he said they used to refract light through him in different ways. And that was before I knew anything. He told me that. I thought, well, I'm a little nervous to try to suspend him and try that because he's 30 pounds. I don't, I'm going to put a big mattress underneath if I ever try, so I don't want him to fall. He says that this skull, Mayan skull, and the next one here, the amethyst skull, were carved in his image. I'm not giving you there it goes. You can see this one a little more. They have, again, the size, it's not a perfect replica, but you think if this was brought to people somewhere, out of nowhere, and they were told carve 12 in the image. I mean, what would it look like, you know? It's hard to get proportion in everything. Stephen talked about the nasal spine. Down here below the nose, there will be side view shots maybe later. There's a little thing here, you can actually, a ledge, you can put your finger, they call it the nasal spine. And that is an activation point. When we are meditating with Einstein, you can just kind of rub this area in. Just like if you do this on your own, you know, and those who are massage therapists know that this point activates other parts of the body. Well, these points, they activate. By the way, Einstein has his own chiropractor. We have a friend who's really a great guy, he's a chiropractor, and he comes and he does, you know, I guess it's more like craniosacral type work. It's interesting to see, you know, how the shifts happen. You know, can you believe it? It's true. So Einstein said these are carved in his image. We know of two that clearly, and Stephen and I align on this one, you know, that we really feel were carved in Einstein's image. And then I asked Einstein, well, what about you? He says, I was created, I'm not carved. I went, oh, okay. People warned me, maybe you shouldn't announce that, Carolyn. You know, it's just information I get. I don't know if it's true or not. I'm not going to try to say anything factual. It feels true to me because I have my relationship and I don't take messages lightly, you know, when I get something that clear. So what does it mean to be created? Well, I guess that's to be continued. We'll figure that one out. You know, I'm not ready to try to speculate further, but I think in some of the original books they talked about, you know, the energy from third eyes going and creating skulls, and he also said it really didn't originate here either. So I'll just let you. Pardon me? Oh, I'm sorry. Is it yeah, I'm getting shy about what I'm saying, so I'm quieting my voice down, whispering. Okay, did you hear the last thing I said? He said he's not from here, Einstein did. And I didn't want to really say that to everybody. Okay, come up here. I was going to go like duck under here and then tell you, you know. Well, you know, I try to not get too detailed, but he said, yeah, he said, no, I don't have an exact name. He said it was far beyond the stars. Exact words. Believe it or not, I don't ask. I'm informed on a need-to-know basis. People always send me emails and say, well, did you ask this, did you ask this? And I actually am not anxious to learn all this yet. I mean, yes, I love the knowledge just like all of us, but when it comes to something like this, if you try pushing and pursuing it, you end up with things that aren't as clear. For me to trust what I receive, I let it come gracefully. And then I know, you know, like the thing with, he says, they were carved in my image and I was created. You know, for me, that's my truth, because I know how it came in. But I really think the other thing, a very important message with Einstein was, he said, don't tell anybody what I am or how I work or what I do. I said, really? He said, no, because he's adamant, and from the very beginning said they must experience me. Crystal skulls are reflective tools. We're, you know, to reflect something for you, your truth, information that you can receive. And if you come in with a preconceived idea that this is a skull that will heal you, or this is a skull that will do something, I mean, it's unlimited, of course, what can happen, but please know that each person, even as you sit here in the room right now, if we just went through and interviewed all of you, what you were experiencing, what you were getting from the skull, you know how many different stories we get? You all get something aligned with a frequency that resonates with you, where you are, etc. at this time. That's pretty cool. Last year when we came out, Einstein said, I'm coming over here for you now. Okay. They're getting left out over here. Well, it's hard to see where the center really is over here. So Einstein said last year when we were in New York City, I speak in the language of light. I went, oh, that's interesting. What's that? You know, I've heard the term, but what is the language of light exactly? I always end up Googling or talking to somebody after I get these messages. And he said, well, Carolyn, it's our original language. It was a language everybody knew. You know, it's our birthright. I mean, you know, before, I don't know when, you know, but people used to meet from a lot of different places. I have a feeling it was down in, you know, the Nazca lines and in those areas. And they just spoke the language of light. It's a frequency. And he said it is translated through opening your heart and raising your consciousness. The more we raise our consciousness, our vibration, and open our heart, all can be obtained. It's also really big right now on, as you open your heart, it's the all-access path throughout the universe. My background was always around rock stars and backstage. All access passes were like commodities, so you know that language might have just been for me, because all access pass means something to all of you. Because love is the all access pass. You open your heart and everything is possible. So the language of light, so each one of you, he says, each person will experience some frequency from me in what he calls the language of light, which is frequency. And you will all get it relative to who you are. I also had an incredible blessing before I left Sedona. A dear friend of mine with something very special that I'm really not at liberty to talk about beyond that it was special with a lot of energy, came and shared something with Einstein and me to bring here. He couldn't be here himself, and he's advised to stay out of the public eye. So we sat and had an experience. And what I will tell you is I was blessed with the most beautiful waves of feminine energy. It's the most feminine energy I could have even fathomed. It was just I'm speechless to try to tell you, but I just want you to know that there was something very beautiful transferred. So please be open to receive frequencies that won't be spoken about beyond that. You know, I have the limitation of language on that one. Yeah. So let's just take a breath and feel these waves of feminine energy for a minute. And it will mean something different to each one of you. And then I'll take you into Einstein's world. Thank you. You can't imagine what it feels like up here when everybody takes a breath. It's like it just kind of lifts you along the way. I whispered again, sorry. This is a little introduction to Einstein's world. Again, what have I been doing for 20 years? We built Einstein. It's kind of in the tradition of, this was Mescalero Apache tradition. A dear friend of mine built for Einstein. The first time he met Einstein, he was given this, we call it a kiva. It's built underground, it's all out of stone. It was very traditional. He was given this design for Einstein, and then he built it. So it's underground, we meditate in it, it's very sacred and of course very private. We don't invite people there really because it's just too private, you know. Maybe if I moved out one day we'll invite people while I'm there. So Einstein's pretty proud. He's like, sitting with the entrance, so he's pretty proud of his own little home, his little sacred space. This is the inside. There are crystals built into it. Now, I think that's a little bit of an addition that's not necessarily the traditional Mescalero Apache tradition, but my friend Kevin, you will see he's an amulet maker too. He's made the piece I'm wearing. He's got some pieces at our booth, and he's just a master in his own way. He has a great story, and I'm just going to give you the insight briefly, is that he got lost at Big Bend, isn't that in Texas, Big Bend National Park, He was hiking out, some kid had crystals and said, oh, if you hike out that way, you can get them. So this is, he's back in the 70s. He puts a pack and some cans of food and a couple bottles of water and starts heading out through the desert to these mountains. Well, by day 3, he's still not there, and he's, starting to run into some, problems now. He's hungry, and anyway, he meets an old man. And there's this raven that's been following him all the way with one talon missing. And then he meets the old man who has a missing finger, and it's a cool story. It turns out that then there's a whole group of them, and they take him in, and he lives with them for 4 years. It's an amazing story. I told him he should write a book. It's pretty cool, but he's so private, he doesn't even. I said, come here, I'll introduce you. He won't leave Sedona, he's a hermit, but pretty powerful guy. So he built this. And I'll show you the little place for Einstein to sit in his, what do we call it, his sacred place? We call it his kiva. He sits with the white roses. White roses has always been the signature. When I got Einstein, I said, I don't really know. I mean, what do you want with me, It's like Sherry said things like that too. It's like, I look at him and I go, wow, people go, it must be so interesting, but when you're in it, it's just part of your vibration, I don't know, it's hard to even relate to it. The white roses, they're something that just to keep everything sacred, to keep everything special for anything that I touched. I wanted to have that theme of that purity of the white rose and the love. So that's why we've always used the white rose. This is Kevin. This is about as much you'll see of him. We have this stone healing table in the yard too, and it's just a special little place, and I've been kind of hiding out there for 20 years, just connecting to nature and listening and really preparing for the next stage of what is to be asked of me. This table is pretty amazing. Sits on 4 double terminated crystals over a chamber of water. These crystals have silver that go from them to a rod in the center into the earth. When you put your body weight on this stone table, it creates piezo or piezoelectric energy, and you can then easily leave your body or call in. It's a pretty magical place. So that's just a little brief of Einstein's world. Okay. All right, so this part I put up because, where do you go from here? Where do we go? There's a couple things, and they're telling me my time is moving fast, so I better. If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. That's Nikola Tesla. I had to put that quote up because what else is there, right? What else is there? I'm going to move a little fast, so there's a little message from Einstein here. People always said, well, what do we do? What do we do now? People are scared. I said, of course, you don't want to have any fear at this stage in your life. Einstein says, eat lower on the food chain. Just relative to wherever you are, eat lower. I mean, unless you're already at the cruel stage of consumption. he also mentions receiving the neutrinos is the energy from the stars. And he's always sending me out, like, just go be under the stars. Be 15 minutes under the stars. Just get that balance. It's just like getting your vitamin D from the sun. The planets all have energy and frequencies that they feed us. So, the information for evolutionary process and mutative process, you get it from stars also. It's not the only place, but it's important. We stay in our homes at night, we live in boxes, try to get out at night, just like you do try to get out during the day. Just a little bit of time. The next thing is just letting go of things, simplifying. Whatever you have, let go of more. Every morning I wake up and I look at my bookcase and I go, what else could I get rid of today? I make a game out of getting rid of one thing a day at least, if not more. Just trying to simplify. I'd love to be Zen, but I'm not there yet. But it's a process. Know thyself. We're going to do a meditation here in just a minute. Love thyself. The process of knowing yourself is really important. And when you know yourself, only then can you love yourself. Otherwise, some people hate themselves. You're taking the wrong self. You don't even have the right one, But then when you love yourself, then you can connect, and then you can make that connection. Aligning with your true nature allows harmonious living on Earth. One of the most important things that Einstein continues to mention is that we need to live on grace on the Earth, and then we are in harmony, and then we're at the right place at the right time doing what's correct for us. The human design system is something that allows people to know themselves. It's something that Einstein brought to me 15 years ago. I'm just going to mention it here, that's all. I don't have time to talk about it, but Google it, look it up. I mentioned a little on my website. My website isn't even that great with it, I don't have time, but it's a system that reveals your genetic blueprint. It's a synthesis of the Kabbalah, the chakras, the I Ching, astrology, astronomy, quantum physics, and biophysics. It's considered a science. It came in the form of a revelation to a man who was my teacher. Einstein brought him to me. So, okay. Are you just wanting me to be done?
No.
That's it. No meditation.
No meditation.
All right, good. I did that well then. We have a really important meditation. So they're cutting me off. So I'm going to say this last thing. I'm going to get my 2 minutes, and I have to complete. And Amani was going to come up and play with me, and we're going to do meditation. And
we will run way over time, equal time.
What time?
Yeah, we're already over time, right? Okay. I'm just going to say this thing here, dreaming with Einstein. Einstein works in the dream time, so do I. Be open to your dreams after you meet Einstein. I get reports all the time. It's pretty powerful. So there's the blue whale. This is who speaks to us. Speaks for itself right there. This was an image that came after 10/10 last year. Art from the soul of Einstein. One last image. Maybe. This was the meditation. So